And this is a game that I am super excited about because this one is a continuation on the system that was used for the game Resist, which was a game that I was super excited about back when it launched, but I think I actually like this version more. But this one does have quite a different theme because in this one you're going to be building up your witch coven and trying to fight against evil within your village, trying to earn yourself favor with the different jurors that are going to be deciding whether you get to stay in that village or if you get kicked out or worse. The game offers a bunch of different juror cards, but each game you're only going to be playing with 3, and then for each of those juror cards you're going to be randomly assigning 2 conviction cards. Those conviction cards remain face down for the majority of the game, but you're going to be trying to raise the persuasion of each of these jurors, and at the end of the game you're going to be flipping those 2 conviction cards. They'll have some sort of numeric value. You'll be adding those values together, and if your persuasion for that juror is higher than the values on those conviction cards, then you have successfully convinced that juror that you are good intentioned and you have won them over. If you're able to do this for all 3 jurors, you win the game. If you only do 2, then it's a draw. If you only convince 1, then it's a loss, and if you convince 0, then it's a critical loss, and evil reigns the village. And at the start of the game, you're also going to be creating your coven deck, and the way that that works is you're going to be taking all the witch cards offered in the game, revealing 2 at a time, and then choosing 1 to add to your coven deck, and 1 to go into the supply that you may be able to draw from later by using some special abilities. Once you've completed your coven deck, that's what you're going to be playing from for the entirety of the game, and then for each of the jurors, you're going to be assigning 3 mission cards. Each round, you're only going to be revealing 1 of those mission cards for each juror, and they're going to have some sort of objective for you to try and complete, which is going to earn you favor with that juror. But then it's also going to have an amount of strength that you're trying to achieve in order to complete it, and it's also going to have a number associated that's going to indicate how many challenge cards are going to come into play if you try to complete that mission. The challenge cards come into play face down. Those challenge cards will eventually get revealed, adding more difficulty to the mission because each of those will have strength values as well. Each round you're also going to be drawing 3 witches from your coven deck and then putting them into play and then choosing which ones you want to activate in any order. Each witch is actually dual use with a hidden ability and a revealed ability. And the difference between these is if you use the hidden ability, that witch is actually going to go back into your coven. You'll be able to use it again in the future. But if you use the revealed ability, it's going to permanently eliminate that witch from the game, but it is a more powerful action. The witch cards will gain you an amount of strength that you'll be able to spend to complete either those mission cards or those challenge cards, and they will also have special abilities that can have different conditional effects, granting you more strength or even allowing you to draw more witches into play. Of course, completing the mission cards are really important if you want to raise up your reputation with that specific juror. But if those challenge cards have a particularly terrible effect that you don't want to activate, you could end up spending all your strength on those challenge cards instead. Both the mission cards and the challenge cards could have some sort of success bonuses or failure effects, whether you complete or do not complete them, and these can come in the form of things like adding curses into your witch coven deck, which essentially dilute your deck, or there could be other failure bonuses like losing villagers, which is also not good because if you ever lose 5 within the game, then you automatically lose. And this one does play very similar to Resist, but the reason that I say that I think I would like this one more is because of the way that the jurors are integrated into the game. This is not a concept in the Resist game, although it does also look like a fantastic game. I just think the jurors add a really interesting layer on top because not only are you trying to pick the challenges that you think will give you the most benefit or that are the easiest to complete, but with the jurors you also want to balance the missions that you're completing for each of the jurors, because if you're doing particularly well with one, that's going to weigh into your decision making because you may not want to try and complete that mission even if it looks like a particularly easy one. This looks like a great way to add more complexity into the decision making without adding much more complexity to the game. But if this one does sound like fun to you and you're wondering which of these 2 games you would like the most, I'll go ahead and roll my previous footage for Resist so that you have a good idea on how that one plays as well. And of course you can check this one out in the description below and follow along to get notified. This is a solo game that plays in about 20 to 40 minutes, and this is a really well designed solo game, so if you are interested in solo games, I think this is definitely one that you want to be paying attention to. And the way this game works is that you're going to be starting the game with a deck of 12 rebel cards. And there are a few different rebels that can be included in each game, which can add some variability to your play. But each of the cards also is dual use, where one side of the card is a more mild ability, but it allows that card to go back into your deck so you can use it again in the future. Whereas the other side of the card is going to give you a more powerful ability, but when you use it, that card gets discarded from your deck permanently. At the start of the game, there's going to be 4 different mission cards out on display, and each of those cards will have an enemy value associated with it, and that's going to dictate how many enemy cards you need to draw and put above that mission card. But then each card's also going to have a target point value, and that's the amount of points that you need to collect amongst your rebel cards in order to complete that mission. Each round, players are going to be drawing 5 of the rebel cards into their hand and then choosing a mission to try and complete, and then you're going to be combining those rebel cards in different ways to try and achieve higher than the point value on the card in order to complete that mission. But the catch here is that each of the enemy cards are going to be flipped when you go to complete that challenge, and they're each going to have a point value associated with them as well that you're also going to want to spend your rebel points in order to defeat those characters if you want to, because it's not mandatory to defeat the enemies to complete the mission, but any enemies that are surviving after you complete a mission is going to activate their special abilities. All the abilities are negative and can cause things like civilian casualties, adding cards that will clog your deck, and some of these enemies will actually protect the location, and you do have to defeat them before you're able to complete that challenge. And if in the end you're not able to complete that mission card because you had to deal with those enemies, then that mission card is going to get removed from the board and not replaced with a new mission card. This is going to make the game harder because you're going to have less missions to choose from in future turns, and you're also going to be a lot closer to losing the game. The game continues like this until you've either lost too many civilians or too many missions in which you lose the game, or instead you can choose to end the game after any successful mission to lock in the victory points that you've achieved so far, and lock in that high score that you can try and beat on a future play. Links to the campaign in the description below.